She was on her knees in room 412, about to do something so degrading, so unspeakable, that she would spend the rest of her short life trying to forget it. The man in that hotel suite, a senator, a man of power, a man with a name that made doors open, had threatened to destroy her if she told a single soul about it, and she believed him. But here is the thing that haunted her even more than what he made her do. She wasn't even supposed to be there. That room had been booked for someone else, her best friend, a girl who was, at that very moment, curled up sick in their hostel room, not knowing the sickness had been arranged, not knowing the food she had trusted had been poisoned, not knowing that the friend sitting beside her, rubbing her back, whispering, "Don't worry, I'll get you medicine," was the one who had done it. This is a story about what desperation makes people do, and what grace looks like when it wears the face of suffering. Stay with me. Rebecca Adaize Okafor was not born into ease. She was born into love, and love, as she would learn early, does not pay school fees. Her father was a tailor in Onitsha, a man whose fingers had grown rough from threading needles and whose back had curved slightly forward from years of bending over fabric. Her mother sold palm oil at the market 3 days a week, waking before the sun and returning after it set. They were good people, quietly faithful, the kind of family that prayed before every meal, sang at church with full throats, and still sometimes went to bed hungry. When Rebecca's admission letter arrived, a partial scholarship to a federal university, her mother held her face in both palms and wept. "My daughter," she whispered, just finish and bring us rest." Rebecca carried those words into university like a stone pressed against her chest. She was going to be the one who changed things, the one who climbed out and then reached back. She studied in the library until security chased her out. She ate garri for dinner more nights than she could count without a single complaint. She was doing it. Slowly, stubbornly, she was doing it. Until the money ran out completely. The message from her father came as a voice note. His voice cracked in the middle of it. He said he had nothing, that the shop had been slow, that her mother had taken ill, that he was so sorry. Rebecca sat on her hostel bed after listening to it 3 times. The tuition deadline was in 2 weeks. Accommodation needed to be renewed. She had 4,000 naira to her name. And her roommate's lifestyle had been getting harder and harder to ignore. Regina Eze was the kind of girl who made a room louder just by walking into it. She was bold, magnetic, quick with a laugh and quicker with a decision. She had not grown up in wealth, but she had grown up watching the world take from people who waited and give to people who moved. That lesson had settled into her bones early and shaped everything she became. By her second year, Regina had quietly built a network that most people on campus didn't know existed. Older men, wealthy men, men who needed company and were willing to pay generously for the right kind of arrangement. A phone call, a dinner, a night, no questions asked. Regina was not sentimental about it. She called it what it was, business. She never pressured Rebecca. She was too smart for that. She simply lived her life loudly enough that the contrast was impossible to ignore. She paid her rent without stress. She ate full meals. She walked into lectures looking put together while Rebecca wore the same 2 outfits on rotation. She never rubbed it in. She didn't need to. The visibility was enough. Rebecca watched for months. She resisted for months. She told herself she was not that kind of girl. She told herself God would provide. She told herself she just needed to hold on a little longer. But there is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from holding on with nothing left in your hands. And that night, after her father's voice note, Rebecca stopped holding. She told Regina she was in. Just for a while. Just until she got back on her feet. Just this once. That is always how it starts. The arrangement came through a man called Emeka. a middleman who operated in the space between desperation and money, connecting girls to clients with the efficiency of a man who had done it so many times it had become routine. No feelings, just logistics. When the message came for Rebecca, it was not from a small man. It was a name that carried weight even through a phone screen. Chief Lawrence Obi, Senator, a man who had been in government for over 2 decades, a man whose face appeared in newspapers, whose name appeared in contracts, whose handshake moved things that ordinary people couldn't move with 1,000 words. The details were clean and precise. The Grand Meridian Hotel, Suite 412, Saturday evening. The payment was the highest Rebecca had seen. She read the message twice, set the phone down, sat with the feeling in her chest, something that wasn't quite excitement and wasn't quite dread, but lived uncomfortably between the two. She needed the money, so she told herself she would go. That was Friday evening. She set her phone on the table and went to the bathroom to shower, to wash herself clean before she dirtied herself the next day. The water ran, steam rose, and in the room behind her, her phone sat on the table, within reach. Regina saw the message. She read the name, Chief Lawrence Obi. She read the hotel, the suite number, the time, the amount. And something cold moved through her. Not guilt, not hesitation, calculation. Men at this level paid more, much more, and the first girl through that door owned the night. Regina had been in this world long enough to understand the arithmetic. She quietly saved the number, copied the hotel details into her own notes. Then she walked to the kitchen. She found a laxative powder she had once bought for herself and mixed a careful amount into the food she was already preparing for both of them. Not enough to make Rebecca seriously ill, just enough to keep her close to the bathroom, just enough to buy time. When Rebecca came out of the shower, still damp and wrapping her hair, Regina was setting the table, smiling, warm, the devoted friend. Eat before the soup gets cold. You need to holistically prepare for tomorrow.
Rebecca sat down and ate. By midnight, the cramps had started. By 2 in the morning, Rebecca was making her 4th trip to the bathroom, confused and exhausted, her body staging a rebellion she couldn't understand. Regina stayed by her side, rubbing her back, pressing a cool cloth to her neck, performing concern with the precision of someone who had rehearsed it. "Don't worry about the job," Regina told her. "Rest. I'll contact Emeka and explain. He will reschedule you. Let me get you something from the pharmacy, something to settle your stomach." "You don't have to go out at this hour," Rebecca said weakly. "You do the same for me," Regina said. And she meant it. In her own way, she probably did. She kissed Rebecca on the forehead. She picked up her bag. She walked out of the door. She did not go to any pharmacy. The Grand Meridian Hotel stood in the kind of part of town where the street lights worked and the security guards wore pressed uniforms. Regina arrived at 8:47 p.m., told the front desk she was expected, and took the elevator to the 4th floor without looking at her reflection once. She knocked on the door of room 412. Chief Lawrence Obi opened it. He was older than she had imagined, heavy-set, silver-haired, expensive cologne failing to cover something stale beneath it. He looked at her without warmth. He did not ask her name. He had requested a girl had arrived, that was enough. He let her in. The door closed behind her. The lock turned. Chief Lawrence had a wound on his lower leg, old, swollen at the edges. The skin around it had gone dark and wrong. He gestured to it without ceremony and told her in the tone of a man who has never been told no in his life what he expected her to do. And then he added, quietly, with the absolute confidence of someone who controlled things, that if she told anyone, he would end her. He named things he could do. He named people who owed him. He did not raise his voice once. He didn't need to. Regina weeps as she knelt to lick the wound. She did what he said. He paid her. She left. She walked out of the hotel into the night air and felt as though her skin had been stripped from her body and replaced with something that didn't belong to her. The money was in her bag. She couldn't look at it. She couldn't look at her own hands. She went back to the hostel. Rebecca was asleep at last, feverish and curled into herself. Regina climbed into her own bed, pulled the sheet over her head, and lay completely still. The nightmare started before morning came. 3 weeks passed. Rebecca recovered physically, but something in her spirit had shifted. The illness had felt like a message, the kind that arrives in your body when your ears have stopped listening. She pulled back from Emeka's network quietly, without announcement. She stopped answering certain messages. She didn't explain herself to anyone. She just stopped and believed God will work out something for her. And then Kingsley appeared at her door. Kingsley Obi was a third-year engineering student, the kind of man who moved through campus without noise. He had noticed Rebecca months earlier, in the library, in the corridor, across the cafeteria. He had asked her out twice, each time with the same unhurried patience, the same quiet confidence, and each time she had said no. He had not pushed, he had simply remained visible. When he heard from a mutual friend that she had been sick, he came to check on her. He brought agidi and vegetable soup from a woman outside the gate. He sat in the chair by her desk and talked to her for 2 hours about engineering, about his family, about what he hoped his life would look like in 10 years. He did not bring a single ulterior thing into the room. Rebecca sat across from him and felt something release inside her chest, some knot that had been tightening for months. 2 weeks later, they were together. Kingsley asked her gently but clearly to step back from Regina's world. He didn't accuse, he didn't interrogate. He simply said he didn't want that life for her and that he would do everything in his power to make sure she never felt that desperate again. She believed him because almost everyone else in her life at that moment had given her no reason not to. While Rebecca was finding something to hold on to, Regina was losing her grip on everything. She stopped attending lectures. She slept until noon and still woke up exhausted. She showered but never felt clean. The nightmares came every night without exception. The hotel room, the locked drawer, the senator's voice, her own hands, and she would wake gasping with her heart slamming and the sheets soaked through. She began sleeping with every light on. She lost weight without trying, her stomach hot constantly. Her chest ached in ways she couldn't explain to a doctor without explaining everything else. And layered underneath all of it, heavier than everything else combined, was what she had done to Rebecca. The food, the lie, the pharmacy, the kiss on the forehead before she walked out to steal her best friend's night. Guilt is not a feeling that fades with time. It compounds, it draws interest, it is patient in a way that living things are rarely. Regina had poisoned her best friend for money, and now, slowly, something was poisoning her back. It happened on a Sunday afternoon in Kingsley's final semester. He told Rebecca he wanted her to meet his father, who had come and was staying, as he always did when he came to this city, at the Grand Meridian. Rebecca did not react visibly. She nodded. She said she would love to. They walked across town together, hand in hand, and Kingsley spoke about his father with the reverence of a son who had been shaped by a man's shadow. He's been in the Senate over 20 years. People in our state know his name like they know the river. Chief Lawrence Obi. Rebecca's feet slowed. Her mouth went dry. The Grand Meridian. Suite 412. The name in Emeka's message. The man Regina had gone to in her place. Kingsley's father? She had almost gone to that hotel. If the food had not made her sick, she would have been in that room. She would have met that man. And the next morning, standing in front of him as Kingsley's girlfriend, she would have seen recognition in his eyes, the kind that cannot be explained away. She thanked God right there on that path, silently, completely, without ceremony. She walked into that hotel, she met Chief Lawrence Obi, she shook his hand, she smiled. She held the secret inside her like a stone, and she did not let it show on her face once. 2 months later, Regina looked like a person who had been worn down to her last layer, thin, hollow, moving as though even the weight of her own arms was too much. And one evening she said, without preamble, "I think I'm dying." "Regina, I'm not being dramatic." Her voice was flat, tired. "I've been sick for months. The doctors are saying one thing, but I know what it is. It's this." She pressed a fist to her chest. "It's what I've been carrying." She told Rebecca everything. The message she had read on the phone, the laxative in the food, the taxi to the hotel, the room, Chief Lawrence, what he had made her do, the money she had taken home and not been able to spend without feeling sick. Rebecca listened without moving. She did not speak, did not interrupt. She let all of it come out. When Regina finished, the silence between them was enormous. Then Regina said, "I know you should hate me." Rebecca looked at her for a long time. "I don't hate you," she said. "How?" "Because you've already been punishing yourself harder than I ever could." She took Regina to hospital that same evening. The doctors found a deep internal infection, something that had started small months ago and been left completely untreated, fed by stress and sleeplessness and grief until it had taken root in places that medicine could no longer easily reach. They treated her, stabilized her, but her body had been fighting alone for too long. Regina never fully recovered.
In the weeks before she died, lying in her family home with her mother watching over her, Regina made a decision. She dictated a full account of what had happened in room 412, what Chief Lawrence Obi had done, what he had threatened, how he had used his power to silence her. She gave it to a lawyer. She gave a copy to a journalist who had been quietly investigating the senator for other reasons, and she gave a copy to Rebecca. "Don't let him get away clean," she told Rebecca. Her voice by then was very small. "Whatever you do with it, just don't let him get away clean." She died 3 weeks later. Her mother held her hand. She was 22 years old. Chief Lawrence appeared on television in a pressed agbada, looking aggrieved and dignified. He called it slander. He called it a political attack. He had done it before and survived. He believed he would do it again. He was wrong. 3 months after the story broke, he was suspended from the Senate pending investigation. 2 months after that, the wound on his lower leg, the one that had never properly healed, that had been festering quietly for years, became severely infected. It spread. His blood turned against him. He died in a private hospital room with a scandal still attached to his name and no crowd of sympathizers to see him off. His family buried him quietly. Kingsley found out the truth in pieces, the way you always do when the truth is large. He was so ashamed and disappointed in his father. He removed every photograph of Chief Lawrence from his phone and his walls. He applied to transfer to complete his final year in a different city, a clean start, a place where his father's name had no weight attached to it. And Rebecca? She packed her things and went with him. When she looked back at the night she didn't go, the food that made her sick, the hours doubled over in the bathroom, the confusion and weakness she felt, she doesn't see punishment. She sees a door that closed and held even when she was trying to push through it. The sickness saved her. From the senator, from herself, from the version of her story that could have been written that night in room 412. And Regina? Her betrayal was real. What she did was wrong in every direction. But the confession, the courage it took to speak from a sick bed about a powerful man who had threatened to destroy her, that was also real. Perhaps more real than anything else she ever did. She used her last breath to make sure the truth did not die with her. That matters. And Kingsley? He is learning, slowly, how to love a father's memory and still refuse to carry a father's sins. Those two things can live in the same chest. It is not comfortable, but it is honest. And he is choosing honesty, the way the best people do. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only thing that doesn't rot. He and Rebecca will face these together and hopefully come out stronger. Together. The end. Thanks for your support and subscribe. For more stories are coming that will stay with you long after the end.